A 2-year-old boy from Sheffield has disappeared while on a Greek holiday island. Police say he may have been kidnapped. Jim Greensmith reports.
Little Benny Needham disappeared into a forest near a house his grandparents are renovating on the island of Kos. A major search is underway, but the police say the boy could have been kidnapped.
Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Sally and what I do here is I research the crap ton out of cases that take my interest. Nothing is off limits. True crime, missing people, mysterious cases, urban legends, or sometimes even scary stories. Whatever I think will open up a discussion with you. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe, like and comment. And for my returning subscribers, hi, I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you're all staying safe and welcome back. Let me know what's going on in your lives by commenting below in the comment section, reaching out to my Facebook, Instagram or Twitter accounts, all of which will be linked below. That goes for my newbies too. Reach out to me. I love hearing from you. Just let me know how your day is going. Also, please remember to be kind. No trolling, no nastiness will be tolerated here. You have been warned. Firstly, I want to apologise for any background noise because it's like 30 degrees, and that's Celsius in the UK, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, and I am a chubby girl and I'm melting. So I've left my fan on because I'm just not doing it. I'm just not going to make myself sweat out of my arsehole for a video. So my fan's on. Oh really, sorry. But I'm not really that sorry. So, my lovelies, today we are doing a midweek mystery case. And today we will be taking a deep dive into a missing persons case. And this missing person is called Ben Needham. Have you heard of him? Well, again, my UK friends may have, but possibly not my overseas friends. Maybe people in Greece, probably people in Greece have heard of him. But we're just going to take a look at it today anyway. Ben was a 21-month-old little boy who went missing in 1991. But what happened to him? Will he ever be found? Let's just have a look, shall we? So Ben Needham was born on the 20th of October 1989, which is the year after me. So he would have been 31 by now. He was born in Sheffield in the UK. Sheffield is a city in the UK. I have never been and I don't really know what it's like, but whatever, I guess it doesn't matter. His mother was called Kerry and his father was called Simon. But she also had a really close family and a support system. She had her parents, Christine and Eddie, who play a large role actually in this case today. Kerry also had two brothers called Danny and Stephen. In the 1990s, Ben's grandparents, Christine and Eddie, went on holiday to Kos in Greece. They loved it so much that they made the drastic decision to move there. So, well, that's what they did. They moved to a little village called Heraklis. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, but I'll pop it up on the screen. Heraklis, or whatever it's called, was a small village which was situated on the edge of Kos. It was a small farming community surrounded by farmland, dirt tracks and fields. When they moved, they took their two sons with them, Danny 9 and Stephen, who was 17. They lived in a caravan to begin with because they were actually currently building a home on a plot of land out there. And to begin with, Kerry stayed back in the UK, but after a short time she decided that she wanted to join her family in Greece. Some places online say that she went for a holiday, but I think she moved there but when she moved there, she lived in a small apartment close to her parents, and she actually managed to get herself a little job at a local hotel in order to support herself, her partner and her son. On the 24th of July 1991, Kerry left in the morning to head off to work at the hotel, and she left her son Ben with Christine and Eddie for the day. On this day, it was relatively warm, so Christine, Eddie, the two sons and Ben all decided to go on a little walk, do some work on their house. Most of the renovations were actually being done by Eddie and the older son Stephen themselves, so they went over there to do a bit of work. Christine, in an interview, says she'll always remember walking down the dirt track towards their new home. Ben was in his pushchair, enjoying the sun, his little feet were hanging off the end, he was playing with his toy cars. It was just a lovely little walk. Once they arrived at what they called the farmhouse, which was their new house, Ben and their 9-year-old son Stephen started playing on the site whilst the rest of them just got on with some little bits and bobs. At some point, Ben had got his shorts wet from playing in some water in the building site, so Christine put his shorts on a line to dry. She literally just placed them over the top of this line. She didn't peg them on or anything. At about 2 p.m, they made the decision to stop and get some lunch. Ben wasn't bothered about eating because he was just distracted playing with his toy cars. So they allowed him to continue to play outside. And you've got to remember that in the 90s, so this is 1991, it was a very different time. This was long before the case of Madeleine McCann going missing abroad, and it was just a very different time. Children did play outside, and little children, even small children, because Ben was, like I say, 21 months. He wasn't even 2 yet, so it was just normal. Before anybody comes at it in the comment section, it is normal. So the family went inside and they began to eat their dinner while Ben was playing outside. Ben was in and out of the farmhouse for a little while, and at the time the farmhouse didn't actually have any windows or doors put in, so it was just open space that he could walk in and out of. Obviously it had the walls and the roof being put on, but they could hear Ben playing, basically is what I'm trying to say. Also during this time of lunchtime, Stephen, the oldest boy, went off on his motorbike to do, teenage stuff, to ride around the island. And after a short while, about 2:30, so about half an hour, Eddie pointed out to his wife that Ben was being really quiet, so he went outside to check on him. That's when they couldn't find him anywhere. Christine even noticed that Ben's shorts were missing from the line. They searched the entire building site for Ben, thinking maybe he had just wandered off, or they even thought maybe his Uncle Stephen had taken him on his bike without telling them, which would infuriate me if that did happen. Later that day, the family were disappointed when they found Stephen and Stephen didn't have Ben. And I think this is when the proper panic started to sink in, and they began to search a wider area, just in case Ben had just wandered off and got lost or got himself stuck or hurt himself. Christine and Eddie did try and leave it as long as they could before raising the alarm with Kerry or calling the police. But after a while, they realised that they just had to. They contacted Kerry at her work, who came straight out to the farmhouse in a panic. They told her exactly what happened, and then they contacted the police. The police actually responded to the scene quite quickly and immediately started questioning the family. They spent hours, and I mean hours, interrogating the entire family, which obviously delays the chance of stopping people leaving the country via a boat or a plane. It was just really infuriating. I also need to point out here that after 7 days of searching for Ben and not being able to find him and questioning the family, it was announced that the Needhams were cleared of any wrongdoing. Over the following 11 days, Hellenic police and Hellenic army searched the area thoroughly, but they couldn't find any sign that Ben had even been there. They couldn't find any of his belongings. Like I said, he bought a couple of toy cars with him. They were gone. Once they realised that Ben wasn't in that area, they had a few theories. He had either wandered off and died, or he had been kidnapped. The police made the disappearance a high priority and made sure that the boy's face was everywhere, just in case someone had taken him. This led to many, in fact more than 300 potential sightings of Ben in the first few years of his disappearance. That is insane. The first of these sightings that came into police actually came in on the 26th of July, and this is only 2 days after Ben disappeared. The family were hopeful. The possible sighting came from a woman that claimed to see a young blonde boy at the airport on the day he actually vanished. She said it stood out to her as the boy was with a family who were all dark-haired, dark-featured, but he was pale and blonde. Ben's grandfather went down to the airport to inquire about this, along with the police, but that boy has actually never been located, so we can't say whether that was Ben or not. The family did begin to think, after the first 11 days, that the police had actually given up on even trying to find Ben, so the case was essentially closed by the Greek police. They would follow up on some tips over the following years, but the family definitely felt like they had just, forgotten about Ben. But in 1995, a private investigator was actually involved in the case. Now, I don't know how this came about. I couldn't find it online. I don't know if the Needhams hired him or the police invited him in. But either way, he got a very good lead very quickly, and he actually found a 6-year-old little blind boy living with a Romani family in a campsite in Greece. Now, this little boy, like I say, he was blind, but he was 6, and he was the exact age of what Ben would be by this point. And obviously, like I said, he was blonde. He looked similar to Ben Needham, or what they thought he would look like. The police do actually take the parents of this little boy into custody, and they questioned them for several hours, but it was eventually determined that this little boy wasn't Ben. Over the following years, the Needhams were forced to return back to England due to illness in the family, but they made very regular trips back to Kos to follow leads. One of these leads was that they heard rumours that children were kidnapped and sold in Kos all of the time. They targeted blonde-haired children who were young, and it is common knowledge on Greece, and the police theorised that he may have been kidnapped and sold into a child trafficking ring. That maybe someone came across him on the dirt road that day and just happened to be involved in this kind of behaviour, so they took Ben and left the island immediately. And this became one of the main theories that the police had. The case actually became so notorious within the UK, and it shocked the British public, just like the case of Madeleine McCann. We couldn't understand how this has happened, and in 2003 a wealthy businessman actually put up £50,000 to help with the search. Also in 2003, the Metropolitan Police made an age regression photo and put that everywhere, and I'll pop it in now for you to see. Also, sightings were still pouring in, and I'll just give a few examples because I can't go into them all because this video would be like hours long, but I'm going to just go list 3 or 4 of the main ones that I saw that I thought were quite interesting. So one of them was that someone saw a blonde boy who fitted the age and description working with a man on sunbeds in Rhodes. So the family flew over, but actually couldn't find a conclusion to the sighting. They couldn't even find the person. Another woman called the helpline that they had now set up for Ben, which I didn't mention earlier. They'd set up a website and a helpline for information about the disappearance of Ben. This woman had called in and said she'd seen a blonde boy playing in a park with some other children that looked just like Ben. She reported it to the police. Again, it turned out not to be Ben. In 1997, the Needhams got a phone call from a man in prison, and this one really interests me and pisses me off as well. So this man phoned the helpline, or phoned the Needhams directly, I couldn't work out, and he told them that a Romani gang actually took Ben. And Romani, I don't want to be disrespectful, and I'll pop on the screen what we used to call Romani people when I was younger, and I actually think it's really disrespectful now, so I'm not going to say it. So I'm just going to carry on calling them Romani. I hope I'm not being offensive. If I am, let me know in the comments, and I apologise profusely. Anyway, this Romani gang took Ben, and they were now in Germany with him. He told the family that they had stolen Ben from the farmhouse, and the German police were actually called and went to the address. But in the documentary that the Needhams do, that Christine and Eddie do, they actually document this moment when they go visit the man in prison. He gives them details. They go to the places that he's talking about. Nothing comes of it. They can't find it. They're getting really frustrated, and then they go back to the prison and they question him again, and he kind of changes his story, and he denies things, he says different things, and you can actually see Eddie's getting really angry and frustrated, and Christine has to tell him to calm down. Unfortunately, nothing ever came of this, and I don't really know what happened in the end, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this man was lying. For whatever reason, I don't know, but prisoners get bored. Maybe he was just bored and wanted to, I don't know, be in the news, I don't know. Another one that interested me was that in 2007, a young lad was questioned in Canada. He appeared to look like Ben and was forced to take a DNA test, which somehow vanished for 9 years, and no one knew the details of the results. This man was called Ben Gleave, and he says he was accused of being Ben Needham by his neighbour. He's also done an interview, and in this interview, which I'll try and put in, or I'll link it below, He says that his neighbour had this weird vendetta against their family and she called in to like start something, or I don't know, she was playing some kind of weird game. Anyway, the DNA test for him came back not to be Ben Needham, so joke's on her, I suppose. By the time it got to 2010, the family had followed hundreds of leads and they still had no answers. Kerry was really struggling with the whole thing and her mental health really suffered. She made an emotional appeal on Facebook for answers, which yet again led to many leads. And in 2011, the BBC show Missing aired an episode that included the story of Ben. In this episode, the Metropolitan Police talk about the case and try and get tips again, I suppose. They also ask the Greek police to reopen the case as, you know, it was a big case and this little boy needed to be found. He was 21 months old when he went missing, and little children don't just poof into bloody thin air, so they wanted this case looked into. The Greek police actually did listen to this and they did reopen the case, and they offered a face-to-face meeting with the family and they discussed all the leads and what was happening so far, and the family actually left there quite positive, but not so positive that they were going to find Ben, because they'd got to the point now where every time they got their hopes up they were knocked back down and it was just soul destroying for them. However, in October of 2012, the English police, so the Metropolitan Police, that were actually in Greece, began digging the area around the farmhouse that Ben went missing. They couldn't find anything. There was literally no trace of this little boy, which is really, really infuriating. Really infuriating. By 2013, Kerry actually challenged the current Prime Minister at the time. She said that the government were not putting enough funding into her son's case and she wanted and expected more help from them. This came more from the fact that when Madeleine McCann went missing in 2007, they were receiving lots of funding and she couldn't understand how the government could just pick and choose. So those of you that don't know the Madeleine McCann case, I will do a video on it eventually, but first of all, where have you been? It's a massive case. But Madeleine McCann was a 3-year-old little girl who went missing in Portugal, and it's a big thing. Her parents, Kate and Jerry, were high up professionals. They were doctors, GPs, and they went on holiday to Portugal and they used to put their kids to bed at night and then they used to go to a tapas bar across the road every single night to eat, and it was quite a distance away, which they are heavily, heavily scrutinised for, and I can't argue with that. They should be scrutinised for that. That's bad parenting. But then on one of these nights, they went back to the room and Madeleine was gone. She was just gone. And there's a lot of controversy behind the entire case. Kate and Jerry are considered suspects in the eyes of the British public. Again, I'm not going to go into this right now because I'm going to do a video on it, but yes. So they were getting lots and lots of funding to try and find Madeleine, and obviously Kerry and all of Needham's were really, really frustrated by this, because why was she getting the funding when Kerry and her family weren't? It wasn't fair, and I agree it's not fair. There should be a way of putting equal funding into these kinds of things. It shouldn't matter your background, your race, your class, it shouldn't matter. Unfortunately though, I think it does, and I think in politics, class always matters. And because the McCanns were high up professionals and Kerry wasn't, she just worked in a hotel, they decided that the McCanns deserved more funding, which is an absolute abomination, if you ask me. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's absolute crap. Anyway, by 2014, Kerry had been challenging the UK government for the entire year, trying to get them to put more funding into her son's case. Eventually she got a lawyer involved and he worked for the Needhams and threatened to force the government to do more by opening lawsuits and things like that nature. And finally in 2015 more funding was actually found and the Home Office agreed to help the Needhams as much as they could. Now this is where one of the biggest leads have come from, and in my personal opinion I tend to think that this is true. Let me just tell you the story and then we'll get into my opinions. So in 2016, a potential witness approached the British police who were in Greece. This witness told them that a digger driver called Konstantinos Barkas could be behind Ben's death. Barkas, who was known as Dino by his friends, had passed away the previous year and had apparently confessed to killing Ben on his deathbed. This witness went on to tell the police that Dino had told them he had accidentally killed Ben in a digger accident. So basically, he had somehow hit Ben with a digger, but he had initially thought it was a dog. But once he got out of his digger to check, because, you know, dogs are not actually that much respected in some foreign countries, he got out his digger to check that it was a dog, and if it was, he was just going to cast it aside. And he realised he actually had hit a little boy, and that little boy was dead. He then had decided to bury the baby and dump some concrete and mud on the top of him. The witness led the police to a potential dump site where nothing was found, but then they led the police to a second dump site, which is only a mile away from the farmhouse. They began to dig here, and during this dig they actually found a small toy car that appeared to have blood on it. This car was sent off to have DNA tests done, but to the family's dismay, the DNA came back not to be Ben's. I don't know if the toy car was even Ben's, because I can't see it anywhere. It's like a little Cars toy, if that makes sense. I'll put a picture in. I don't know if Ben even had this toy, so that'd be interesting to know. Kerry firmly believes that her son was killed by this man and this digger, maybe by an accident, but she theorises that maybe it was Ben was picked up by the digger. What's the thing at the front called? The you know what I'm talking about, the thing that picks up mud. Oh, for God's sake, that's going to annoy me. Anyway, she thinks he was picked up by that part and taken to another site to be buried. Personally, I don't know whether that part is true. I don't know whether he was taken and buried somewhere else. It's a really, really good and high possibility that that's happened. But I do tend to lean to the fact that Ben was probably wandered off and killed by a digger or in some kind of freak accident. That does make sense to me, personally. I've watched tons of documentaries on this case and followed it for years, and to me that does make a lot of sense, because around the area of the farmhouse, majority of it was building sites. People were building houses on there, and the way it looks now, it definitely didn't look like that back in those days. So I do tend to lean more in this direction. But where are they now? Where are the family now? So 2 years after Ben went missing, Kerry and Simon had a daughter, and they called her Leanna. Kerry had always felt like a mother, but she didn't have a child anymore because her child was missing. So she felt much joy when she had a second baby, because she felt like she could be a mother again. Unfortunately, 2 years after Leanna was born, her father Simon was actually convicted of burglary, which I know is bad. It's still a crime, he shouldn't have done it, but I think we should give him a little bit of lenience. His not even 2-year-old yet son is missing, and I don't think unless we've been there we can comprehend how that actually feels. So I think it's important to remember that before you start judging him in the comment section. As of last year, so 2020, Ben is obviously still missing. He is presumed dead by the Greek police. However, a British lady called Donna has recently spoken out, saying that she is confident she may have seen Ben alive and in his 20s living in Greece. She said to the newspaper that she was sitting in a restaurant eating lunch when she was served by a young man who spoke fluent Greek, and when he spoke to her, she just said the resemblance of his face was just uncanny. I don't really know what happened with this, to be honest, because the newspapers just tell you the story and then they piss off, don't they? So I don't know. My thoughts on this are, my main thing that I think it could be is the digger theory with the accident. But sometimes when I look at this case a bit deeper and I talk about it with people and they talk about the child trafficking stuff, I also then start to lean that way too, because in Greece it is such a big business. Children are taken regularly and trafficked all over the world, all over the world. Sometimes it's not for sexual reasons. Sometimes it is people have made payments to a gang, the child trafficking gang, because they want a child. So this gang will kidnap a child and take it to this family and let the child live with them. So that could have happened. Personally, for me, I don't think Ben is alive. I just don't. I don't think he's alive. And the same can be said for Madeleine McCann, who also, I think, is no longer with us. And it's horrible to think of, and it's not the outcome that I want, and it's not the outcome that I wish the family to go through. It's just, you know, when you have this gut feeling when you're looking into theories and things, it's just a feeling that I have, and it's awful and it's tragic, but I just think that that might be the case. I hope it isn't, but I think it is. But that's it for today's case, guys. It's a heartbreaking one, that's for sure, and it makes me angry, it makes me upset, it makes me confused. I just want to know what happened to little Ben. And also, side note, my son's called Ben as well, which is really sad. He wasn't born in 1989, but he's just sad. It's sad. If you have any information on what happened to Ben, I will link all the relevant channels in the description box below. Please keep Ben in your thoughts, and I offer my love to all of the Needhams, and I hope you get your answers. It's unlikely I'll be watching this video, but if you are, I want to just say that I'm so sorry for what you're going through, and I really, really, really hope you find Ben, and I really hope you find him alive, and I hope you get your closure. Please remember, guys, to like, comment and share if you want to, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification if you like what I'm doing here. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. I care about you. I love you. Stay safe out there. Don't kill anybody, and have a wonderful day. I love you guys. Bye. Hi my lovelies. Sorry, I'm just having to jump on here right at the end because during my editing of this case, I was actually notified of a potential update. So as of today, which is the 23rd of July 2021, there have been new witnesses that have come forward to claim they may have seen Ben. And what I'll do is I'll just read the article to you really quickly, and this is an article that I got from ITV News Online, which pings through to my phone when there's any updates in cases. So I'm just going to read this. This is a quote. As the family of Sheffield toddler Ben Needham prepare to mark the 30th anniversary of his disappearance in Kos, ITV Calendar can reveal that Greek police are following up information from 3 witnesses who say they saw a boy matching Ben's description. The witnesses made contact with the Help Find Ben Needham Facebook page, which routinely passes on credible information to the South Yorkshire Police, which has worked with Greek authorities over 3 decades to try and solve this mystery. It was members of this team which pursued the story. The witnesses say they saw a young lost child who had been brought into a campsite in Corfu in the early 1990s. He was not part of any family staying at the campsite, and when asked if he wanted a drink, he replied yes and no in English. One of the witnesses, who does not want to be identified, described the child as blonde, between 1 and 2 years old, and wearing a nappy. Another witness, who also wishes to remain anonymous, remembered the child being given a drink at the bar and that no family there claimed him. Delida Messing was working on the reception at the campsite during the summer in the early 1990s. She is convinced a boy she saw walk into the campsite was Ben Needham. End quote. So that's really, really interesting information. The one thing I will say is that obviously the family have lots of leads that have never came to anything, so I don't want to necessarily get my hopes up that this was a thing, and we also need to remember that this was in the early 1990s, so we still don't know where Ben will be today in 2021, so it's really important to point out. And throughout the past few years, there have been a lot of stories that are like this that have always come out to be nothing, but I think it was appropriate to update, seeing as I was doing this story this weekend anyway. So yeah, that's just a little update I have for you. If I find out any more information, I will update you again. but we'll just have to see what happens. So thank you guys. Sorry, have a lovely evening. Bye.
Jet planes in the night sky with you, getting high in the sunrise with you, getting through all the bad times with you. I wasn't missing a thing, now I do. And I wish that I could build a time machine, 'cause time moves on, and now you're gone. Oh, if only I could build a time machine, I'd come and get you. I can't forget you. I miss you.